Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's professional development session on whiteboarding in Zoom. I do have a link here that you can see, which I will put in the chat tool. Let's see, I have to pull up the actual slide in PowerPoint to do that. Just a second. Let me put this link in the chat tool. This is my slide presentation. So you can follow along that way if you like, or have it for later if you just bookmark it. As Carlin mentioned, these are the flex numbers for the credit colleges and for continuing education. If you have a need to get that, if you've attended this presentation, you have a need to get your name in the list so you can award yourself the flex credit. Just send me an email with that information and I'll forward that to our senior secretary, Mary Kingsley, who will put you in so you will have the opportunity to claim the flex credit. We'll be here 2 hours today, so you'll get a couple hours of flex credit for this. All right, first slide. What is this? What are we talking about? What is whiteboarding? Well, it fairly obviously has something to do with that venerable board hanging on the wall. I go all the way back to chalkboards, so same basic concept. The technique we're talking about is also sometimes called board casting. And what's it all about? Well, one of the things that people missed the most right off the bat when they had to switch from lecturing in the classroom to lecturing on Zoom was the old low-tech whiteboard hanging on the wall. Some of us just use that all the time in class, writing on it, drawing on it, particularly things like mathematical notation or scientific or economics diagrams and graphs and things like that. It's just very difficult to teach a lot of subjects without a whiteboard that you can draw on and write on freehand. And Zoom offers a replacement for that, but it's, or did offer a replacement for that, but it had some limitations. And it was something that really needed to be available, particularly in STEM fields. If you're teaching in science, technology, math, you desperately need that whiteboard. So what's the solution? Well, one solution is a so-called software whiteboard app, where you can bring a whiteboard up on a computer screen and share that with your students and write on the whiteboard, create various objects on the whiteboard and so on, and share that with your students. And one of the capabilities of these software whiteboard apps is that the access to the whiteboard is shared. If you so choose, your students can access the whiteboard and make changes on it. And this can be a participatory activity, the virtual equivalent of sending students to the board without them having to get up and walk up to the front of the room under the eyes of their peers and so on. So it's a little less intimidating for students in this case. So these have some real value as a replacement for the classroom whiteboard. We're going to look today at two software whiteboard apps. We're going to spend most of our time with the new Zoom Whiteboard, though we're going to take a brief look at the old one too. The new implies there was an old one, indeed there was. And since we've just all gotten access to Office 365, we also have, as a part of that, a Microsoft Whiteboard app, which is quite functional, quite powerful. So we're going to take a look at those two. It used to be when I did this session, I would also cover another free software whiteboard app called Jamboard from Google. Let me put that in the chat tool. It's a free Google resource, and it can be accessed through a web browser on the web at, let's see, jamboard.google.com. Sorry, I have to talk while I type. There we go. There's the link to it. It has capabilities that are basically very similar to the two that we're going to look at today, and I've covered that in the past in other sessions. So I'm going to stick with these two new ones that are provided to us by people with whom we have a contractual relationship here at the district. So these we know will not become unusable or drop behind a paywall, where suddenly with Jamboard, we're always a little concerned that Google might decide to start charging for it and charging everyone for it. So these two we can be pretty sure are going to be available to us indefinitely. Okay, we'll look at those in a moment. Before we go looking at various software-based whiteboards, they all share one major limitation. That is, it's very difficult to draw and write on the screen on a whiteboard app with a mouse. Mouse was never intended for that sort of thing. It's intended for pointing and clicking and selecting things and moving them about and so on. But you just don't have the kind of fine motor control with a mouse that you need if you're actually going to use a software whiteboard app efficiently and effectively in most cases. So there are some we'll call them mouse enhancements or secondary pointing devices that you can use if you're going to be using a software-based whiteboard app extensively. These are going to be well worth it, or at least one of these is going to be well worth it. The most generally useful one is the first one listed here, a graphics tablet, which is basically, like I say, a secondary mouse. It's got a stylus, and you move the stylus over the surface of the graphics tablet, and you can write and look at the screen, and you can write, you can draw, and so on. These have been around for a long time. They used to be quite expensive, particularly to get anything that really worked reliably. And it was big enough to do you some good. It's really handy to have a graphics tablet like this that is roughly the size of a standard sheet of letter paper, 8.5 by 11 or thereabouts. Used to be you could get little bitty ones for reasonable amounts of money, but they're just really very limited in what you can do with them. This one, the XP Pen Deco 01 version 2, and there's a link if you go back to the chat tool and pull up that link to the slide deck. There's a link in the slide deck to an Amazon page where you can get this. Not sure what it's running today. Let's see. Let me click on that and see here. Oh, it's Amazon's has got their heart right today. This one is $60 right now. And this is a full-size graphics tablet, 8.5 by 11. It works great. It's really designed as an artist's tool. You can draw and paint with it and things like that, but it's not a high-end one. High-end graphics tablets like this can go for hundreds or thousands of dollars. But this one's quite a good compromise between capability, quality, and expense. Just a sec. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. But you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask questions at any time, please. Just getting a little background noise there. This is the one I've got. Let's see. I've got it sitting over here. Show you that. And it just sits off to one side. Always handy. Ooh, should have dusted it. Sorry. That's embarrassing. But that's what it looks like. Here's the stylus for it. And it's just basically a secondary mouse. But given that you manipulate it with a stylus instead of moving your entire hand and trying to move a mouse around and so on, you can write and draw with this quite effectively. That's exactly what it's designed for. And put that off there. So I'd like to claim credit for finding this, but I found this one, or a colleague up at Miracosta who did a presentation for us during our DE week a couple of years ago, highlighted this one. It's probably the best bang for the buck you can get. There are certainly others that you can buy as well. But that's an excellent tool. And I'll demonstrate that here in a few minutes.
Does the school
show you the difference? Yes.
Does the school have any of these for us to use?
I think some departments, I know math at Miramar used to have some that they checked out. Not this particular one, but something, just as good or better. It would vary. You just have to check with your department to see.
Thank you.
There's no central repository of equipment like that I know of. But it's quite possible that some departments do still have some of these on hand. You can also utilize these whiteboard apps and share them with your students through a mobile device, like a smartphone or a tablet, like an iPad or an Android tablet. And there are styli, I guess that's the plural of stylus, I guess. There are styli that will work with all sorts of mobile devices. There's one type that I've had some good luck with. Pick that up here and share that with you. I love OBS. I can do so much with this. Let's see, document camera. That's not it. There it is. Let me let that. No, don't roll. Problem with things that are around. Focus that a little bit. Okay, this is a universal touchscreen stylus. You can use it with any device that has a touch screen, notably a smartphone or a tablet. It's got a little plastic collar on it with a little stylus tip below it. And you can just put this on something and move it about and write with it. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's quite inexpensive. And it will work on any, as I say, any touchscreen device. There's a, let's see what that's running today at Amazon. All right, let me show you what I'm seeing here. There we go. $14. That's a little cheaper than the graphics tablet, because if you already have the touchscreen device, like especially works on an iPad, well, though there are other options for the iPad as well, or an Android tablet, a bigger touchscreen device like an Android tablet or an iPad will work very well with this. And you can write on the screen, and we'll see that happen here in a little bit. Okay. And finally,
or your computer has a touch screen?
Yeah, that device would work on a computer touchscreen as well.
Thank you.
But the iPad stylus works only on an iPad. Apple puts out one version of this they call the Apple Pen that costs, depending on which version you buy, somewhere between $100 and $200. You're not going to get anything cheap from Apple. But fortunately, there are, how shall we put this, knockoffs on the Apple Pencil that work great. I've got one here. And what's this one today? $25. And here's what it looks like. Just, well, you see the picture is quite good. And it's got a little charging port on it. You charge it up and it works for several hours. And you can write directly on the screen of an iPad with this if you're in a Whiteboard app that will accept, that type of input, like the Microsoft Whiteboard or actually, I haven't tried this with the Zoom Whiteboard. It should work fine, but it certainly works fine with the Microsoft Whiteboard. So these mouse alternatives will make it a lot easier to use these software whiteboard apps effectively. Makes it a lot easier for you to write and draw legibly on the software whiteboard, which is their major limitation. Okie dokie. I'm going to start with the Zoom Classic Whiteboard. This is a feature that's been in Zoom for years that works quite well and is adequate for most whiteboard uses, virtual whiteboard uses in most class situations. It's really quite comparable to the physical whiteboard that's in capability, the one that's hanging in your classroom. To show you what this one looks like, let me share my Zoom screen here, which is a capability that Zoom has. Okay, now you're seeing my Zoom screen. The video may get a little choppy at times, but nobody needs to see me anyway. But now you can see what I'm doing as the host of the meeting on my Zoom window. And we access the classic Zoom Whiteboard through the screen share tool with the green button in the center of the Zoom host menus at the bottom of the screen. And when I click that, I get a share selection box that allows me to tell Zoom what I want to share. And I can share all sorts of different things with people in the meeting through the Zoom screen share tool. Like I've got 4 screens on this computer. I could share any of them with you. Right now I'm sharing the screen that has my Zoom window on it. But I also have this option here to share a basic whiteboard. If I select that and click share, now we're all seeing the Zoom Whiteboard. And since I didn't prevent it, everybody has access to it. By default, I see a pencil icon. My mouse cursor turns into a pencil, can move it about, and I can try to write with it. That's supposed to be a question mark. It's okay, but it doesn't, it's not easy to do. This is powered, by the way, by the, and let's see if this is going to show you this. Darn it. Yeah, there it is. By this annotation tool that you can use anytime you share your screen. You have an option to annotate that shared screen using the tools in this toolbar here that pops up on the screen automatically. It popped up on another monitor, so I had to drag it over. And you have all sorts of capability here. By default, what you're doing is drawing. And you can draw a thin line or a thicker line, like a marker. You can also draw just lines like that. You can draw arrows. There's that question mark. You can draw geometric figures if you're artistically inclined. You can do some basic drawing with this by just clicking and dragging. And that includes rectangles, circles, and ellipses, both open and filled. And so you can do quite a bit of this. You can also, please feel free to do so, annotate this whiteboard yourself. You should, if you move your mouse over where you're seeing this whiteboard shared, you should be able to draw on it, or just scribble on it or whatever. That's a really nice part of this, of these shared, or these software whiteboard apps. Everybody who's in the class, who's in the meeting, can participate. Somebody just squiggle something on there. Just move your mouse over it, click the mouse button, and just move it around. Let me know if you have any trouble with that. You should be able to see that. That's the only thing I'm sharing right now. Let's see. I've got a laptop over here in the meeting, so I keep track of what you're actually seeing, and I can draw from it. Should be able to. There we go. Oh, I have to choose Annotate from my view options, don't I? Yeah. Sorry, forgot about that. Now I can squiggle. So you have right at the top of the screen, somebody found it. You have right at the top of the screen a view options menu, a little black button labeled view options, right to the, just to the right of a green rectangle. And if you click on that, you get a menu, and in that menu is an annotation option. If you click on that annotation option, then you can draw on the whiteboard as well. Let's try to actually do something with that here. I'm going to move my shared whiteboard over to another monitor here, which you won't be able to tell I've done, but now I'm going to use my graphics tablet instead of my mouse. Let's see if I can get it to let me do that. I want to draw the thin line. That looks like that's going to work. Okay, let's say I wanted to, mathematics is an area where this is so useful because it's so tedious to try to reproduce mathematical notation on a whiteboard like this if you can't just draw on it. So I can do I'll get some help from you if I can. I can put a very simple algebraic equation on here. 2x squared plus, and I can do this with reasonable legibility. I have a hard time writing legibly with a pencil anymore, but I can do this with reasonable legibility because I'm using this graphics tablet. Like so. Let's see. There. If you've got my little video window up there as well, I'm just writing on this thing. So put that back to, okay. And let's see, let's keep going. Plus 10 equals, I want this to be doable in our heads, so we'll say 42. Okay, that's quite legible. Well, how would then I could continue this process and show students in a series of steps the progression of the process to solve this equation for X. Not the most advanced of mathematics, I realize, but it's been a long time since I took a math course. This is about as good as I get anymore. But let's say, you know, certainly what I could do to simplify this equation would be to move 10 to the other side. So that would be 2x squared plus 10. And if I do anything to both sides of the same thing to both sides of the equation, I preserve the validity of the equal sign. So 2x squared plus 10 minus 10 equals 42 minus 10, which equals, somebody help me with that. Now, at this point, you can say to your students, okay, you finished that part of the, what comes next on that line. And if you keep it simple enough, they can do it with a mouse. A real limitation to this participatory use of the whiteboard, of course, is that your students are almost certainly going to have, at best, a mouse or their finger on a mobile device to do this. So you don't want to put too much.
Dave, your volume's drifting off.
Uh-oh, sorry about that. You don't want to put too much of a strain on their capability, but can someone try to use their mouse and put the number there? Like I say, I tried to keep this so we could all do this in our heads. Remember, you'll have to activate your annotation tool by clicking the View Options menu, or opening the View Options menu at the top of the screen and selecting Annotate, and then hitting the Draw button. Let's see, the Draw button, the third one from the left, and selecting a thin or a thick line. A thin line would be better. Well, let's just accept that that's possible. So, and I can see where my pencil is going to write. So once I get a little practice with this, again, I can write reasonably legibly, especially if I don't try to go too fast. That is a learned hand-eye coordination that takes some practice. Because even though you're writing with something that looks like a pencil or a pen, and you're making motions on the graphics tablet, you're not seeing the changes on the graphics tablet. To see what you're doing, you have to look at the computer screen. So you're looking at the screen in one direction and not looking at the tip of your writing device as you normally would be if you were writing on paper. That's different. It's harder. It takes some practice. And as I say, not trying to go too fast right off the bat. So that's another disadvantage of these software whiteboards. Even if you have a more sophisticated pointing device like a graphics tablet or a touchscreen device with a stylus, will work. But you can continue, and this is an invaluable sort of educational process in a mathematics or science course when you're trying to show someone how to carry out a multi-step procedure. It just doesn't cut it to just show them the solution all at one time. They will look at it and say, oh, that makes sense, and move on, but they won't really have mastered the skills and the reasoning that you're using as you solve the process or follow the procedure or whatever. So being able to present things like this step by step is hugely important in STEM pedagogy and in many other subject areas as well. So then to finish off and I have, if I flub, I've got on my, let's see if I can get this over and show it to you. Yeah, there it is. On my annotation toolbar, I have an eraser right in the middle. And I can just grab that eraser and erase that and go back to draw and do that again. So I'm not working without a net here. So we've got 2x squared equals, because plus 10 minus 10 cancel out, 32. So if I just divide both sides of the equation, 2x squared divided by 2 equals 32 divided by 2. The 2's on the left. Anything over itself is 1. So x squared equals 32 over 2, or 16. And so we know that x squared equals 16. And to solve this for x, I just take the square root of both sides of the equation. And there I kind of botched the square root symbol. I could erase that. Well, I'll just stick with it. The square root of anything squared is just itself. X equals, and the square root of 16 is, of course, 4, but not just plus 4. Characteristic of quadratic equations, of which this is an exceptionally simple example, is that they always contain, or there are always two solutions that will satisfy the equation. Either, in this case, either plus 4 or minus 4. Either plus 4 squared or minus 4 squared is 16, positive 16. So actually, this would be plus or minus 4, and I can indicate that. And I can do anything. I can do mathematical equations, I can draw diagrams, I can pictures, I can write to a certain limited extent, though if I need to put a lot of text onto the whiteboard, I can use the text tool built into the whiteboard. Let me get this out of the way. So I've got that activated now. I can go to the top here, just click, and I get a text box. And this is I can type text. So if I have to share an extensive amount of text, or more than just a few words of text with my students, I can type it in, which will make it more legible and easier on me to type than it is to draw, maybe. Or I could have just written that in up there once I get more practiced with the whole thing. So it's a very effective replacement for that whiteboard that you have on the wall in the classroom, especially if you have a reasonably capable pointing device like a graphics tablet or a stylus for a touchscreen. So it's really practical to use in this way. And this is something that's built into Zoom. It doesn't take any particular preparation or practice to be able to do this effectively. When you're done, of course, you have this share toolbar sitting up, especially if you only got one monitor, you have this share toolbar sitting up on the top of the screen somewhere. You can move it around to get it out of your way. It does not, oh, you're not seeing that. Yeah, that does not share with your students, but there is a little red button with a stop share on it. Let's see. I can probably show that to you if I change my Zoom share here. No, not really. But there'll be a little red button labeled Stop Share. If you do that, you'll be back to your regular Zoom window, and you can proceed from there. So that's the Zoom Classic Whiteboard. There is a new Zoom Whiteboard, which we here at the San Diego Community College District have just gotten access to. We've just gained access to this. It's a feature that's been around on Zoom for a few months, but there was some sort of reason that we at the district and at all the California community colleges couldn't have access to this new Zoom Whiteboard because of a privacy agreement involving HIPAA, medical privacy law. And they didn't have a good explanation for why they couldn't add that to our accounts. And finally, it worked its way through the labyrinth of the bureaucracy, whatever, and everybody agreed, well, there's no reason that everybody who has a Zoom account provided by the state chancellor's office at the California community colleges should have access to this new whiteboard. And it's now.
But then the schools would have to provide the tools to be able to use the whiteboard.
Well, the classic whiteboard has been there all along. So that's not a new issue.
Oh, okay.
This was a privacy issue because this whiteboard can be used outside of Zoom meetings. And there were apparently some codicils to our agreement with Zoom that prevented us right off the bat from getting access to this. But everybody looked at it and got together and talked about it, and they decided finally that we should have access to this, and we do now. And that's only been about 2 weeks ago that this happened. So I had to change my PowerPoint slides in my syllabus when that happened, happily, because I was one of the ones bugging to have access to this tool. Instead of being accessed through the Zoom screen share, this one is, now let me go ahead and share my Zoom screen here so you can see what I'm talking about when I talk about it. Now you're seeing my Zoom screen. Of course, you're seeing the PowerPoint slide because I've got that up on my screen. Here's that share toolbar I was talking about. You see that? Let me get that out of the way so we don't need that. And it is accessed through the Zoom meeting menu instead of through the share button. There's now a separate whiteboard button down here in the lower right, almost to the right-hand end of the Zoom host menu, labeled whiteboards. And that's where you access this from. Rather than using the screen share annotation tools that we were using with the classic whiteboard, this whiteboard has its own tools built into the app. So you don't have to go to the view options menu and select annotation in order to use it. it has some new features that are not available in the Zoom Classic Whiteboard. Otherwise, why would there be any need for it? Notably, sticky notes. Let me go ahead and bring up a Zoom whiteboard here, a new Zoom whiteboard. I do that by going to my whiteboards tool down here in the Zoom menu. And I get a page that shows me any previous Zoom whiteboards I have created and used in a meeting. It keeps track of those. That's something that you didn't have with the Classic Whiteboard. With the Classic Whiteboard, you used it while you were there. There was an option to save it, and you could then send the saved graph, send a picture of it to your students. But this one automatically saves anything you do in a Zoom whiteboard and allows you to access it later and without having to save it manually at the end of the session. And it allows you to share it with other people. You can build up a whole bunch of these if you use this tool exclusively or extensively. There's a search box you can use to search for named whiteboards. If it gets to, scrolling up and down gets too tedious. But starting a whiteboard is super simple. You just click on the button that says New Whiteboard. And note this option down here in the lower left, allow participants to access after the meeting. This way, automatically, if you have that checked, people who have attended the meeting will automatically have access to this later through a Zoom client. Let's see. Don't know of any restrictions that would really apply to us. Okay, so to create a new Zoom whiteboard, which will be automatically shared with everyone in the meeting, I just click this button here and click Open and Collaborate. And there's the shared whiteboard. That replaced my Zoom screen share. So now you're seeing a collaborative whiteboard. I've got tools over here on the left instead of having an annotation toolbar at the top and having to start that. You all automatically have access to it. Now you don't have to do anything to write on the whiteboard. All you have to do is click the little pen tool here, the top tool. Somebody found it. And check and select either a pen or a marker, or highlighter. I'm sorry, that's a highlighter, not a marker. So just select the pen tool and your mouse cursor changes into a, let's see, and you're not seeing that. That's interesting. Into a very good, that's a very good job of writing with a mouse, I must say. I can write on it using my whiteboard, especially if I move this screen over to the right monitor. I'm using my graphics tablet for that. Took me less time to write that anyway.
You can't tell who's doing what. When we talk, we light up in a yellow square.
Actually, yeah, I can. If you look as it's happening, it identifies the person who's annotating. It's only there while it's moving.
Oh, okay.
While the pen is moving.
And I have those minimized, so I couldn't tell.
Yeah. But so we've got pen tools, and we can have 3 different weights of line. If I want a more like a marker than a pen tool, I can select that. and I can get a thicker line, a bolder line. I'm just doing that with the mouse, obviously. So you've got a very simple but effective drawing tool, and you have a highlighter tool as well. You can draw geometric shapes, and quite a selection of geometric shapes like cylinders, and much more extensive than you had in the classic whiteboard, or organic chemist's favorite, a hexagon. Or ellipses, things like that, circles and ellipses, depending on how you draw it. And arrows. And you can rotate these, and so you can create fairly sophisticated diagrams using the shape tool there. You can draw lines, arrows, and double-headed arrows. So if you want to point at something, like that's a cylinder there, you can just draw that. It has a text tool like the classic whiteboard did. And you can make that text box there as big as you like or as small. You can't make it so small that it would not display what you've typed there. You can move that around on the screen. So need to put it in a particular spot for those purposes, no problem. You can double click on it on the text you've typed, and you can change the size of the text. And you bold, italicize, underline, and so on. You have some basic text editing tools. I double click to get to be able to highlight that text, and then I can change the color of the text and so on. So pretty decent set of tools. Let's see, how can I make this even more? No, can't do that. Okay. Just below the text tool, the little T in the menu there is a sticky note option. This is one of the best new features in this relative to the classic Zoom Whiteboard, because what do we often use whiteboards for? For brainstorming. You put big sticky, you write something on a big sticky note and stick it up on the board. And, or you can make this functionality similar to what you have with a flip chart in the physical classroom. You can select that sticky note tool and then just click anywhere on the screen, on the whiteboard screen, and you get a rectangle that you can change the color of. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I am going to, no, I can't do that. Trying to think of a way to make this for you to see me using the menus here and so on. That's not shared with the whiteboard. And I want to close the whiteboard. So what can I do? I guess there's not really much I can't do there. Okay, so I've created the process of creating a sticky note is very simple. I just click on it. Click on the little sticky note icon, which is the one right below the T in the toolbar there. And then I just type something and press enter, and there. And then I can click and drag and move that tool anywhere, or that sticky note anywhere on the screen. Move it about. So I can organize ideas and things like that.
Can you color in these shapes?
Oh, the hexagon and the.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do with this beige one or coral one.
Let me see.
Because some programs have a fill. If you put the color and you click on that, it fills that shape.
These and the classic whiteboard had filled and unfilled shapes that you could, but I don't see that functionality in this one. It may be there. That's a good question. May be there, but I just may not know how to access it because, as I say, we've only had access to this for a few weeks. I'll look into that. That's a good question because that would be handy. Well, you could always, wouldn't be ideal, but you could just make yourself a marker here and change your color. There's a color icon just below the eraser icon where you can change the color and you could just fill it in manually.
Oh, that's how I got this square.
Yeah.
Because I guess, see, it doesn't go with the space.
I wasn't very neat there.
No, but you did better than I did.
But you could do that. But there may be a better way.
Yeah.
Just below the sticky note icon is an eraser, which is obvious. You can just erase parts of the erase things that you put on there. And there's an undo button. I can undo that erasure if I wish, a bit at a time. So I can, I'm not condemned if I accidentally erase something I didn't mean to. I can get it back using the curvy left pointing arrow just below the color button. And there's a button at the bottom that allows you to create another page of your whiteboard. You can have as many pages as you like. That's not as important as it used to be, though, because this, if I just select my selection tool at the very top of the toolbar there, I can move, let's see, how can I do that? I can move this about. Oh, I need the hand icon. That's what I need. I can move this about and I can make this thing as big as I like. There's no limitation as to how big this page can be, and I can just move stuff out of the way, which you should see here in a minute.
Well, that's interesting. The one.
Well, actually, I'm seeing it, but you don't see it. I have another area over here that I can draw in that wasn't available to me before. So this page can be as big as I need it to be, and I can just move portions of it back and forth so that the people who are working with me in the meeting can see different parts of it at different times. So, but you can also create new pages, add a page, and there's a new blank page. I can go to that new blank page. And that's not showing to you yet. How do I? Got a feeling my my share on my laptop over here is not keeping up. because apparently you're still seeing that. Let me see. Oh, you have to switch manually to the new page. You have at the very bottom of the toolbar, you have a little pair of squares that overlapping one another, and you get to decide which page of the whiteboard you are viewing. So if you want to see the second page, which is blank right now, you have to select that yourself rather than me selecting it for you, which is a little awkward. But that's the way it works. You also have zoom in and out tools in the lower right-hand corner of the whiteboard that allow you to zoom in on if somebody draws something that's too small, you can magnify it, or you can zoom out and see more of the whiteboard at one time. So all pretty decent tools and a pretty functional whiteboard. It takes a little getting used to as to exactly how to do what you want to do with it and so on, a little practice. But it's very conveniently located right within your Zoom menus. So you can just pull up that whiteboard at any time. You can even use this whiteboarding tool outside of a Zoom meeting. If I close this one and make sure I'm not doing any screen sharing. Nope, this is just my video that you're seeing. And if I bring over my Zoom desktop client, which I've got running on another screen here. There it is. Bring that over. I have now in the Zoom desktop client, I have a whiteboards link, or whiteboards icon. I can click on that one. I can go back to my collection of whiteboards here that I've done so far. Let's see. Here's the one we were just playing with. Here's one that I made earlier. I can pull that one up. I can, since I'm in a Zoom meeting, I can share my screen and share that, but it wouldn't be participatory. It would just be me drawing on it, which much of the time is fine. What you need, you're not going to have a student up at the board collaborating with you all the time. A lot of this is just going to be presentation. So you don't need the participatory capabilities. But you can share this whiteboard, not in a Zoom meeting, but with people, anyone in your class, in your let's say you're working with a student trying to explain something or whatever, you can share, or with a colleague, you can share by Zoom contact or email address. And Zoom will send an email to the person you share with them with a link that will allow them to be able to access the whiteboard. Sorry about that. I can send up. And let's see, why is that not letting me? I should be able to determine whether the person can just view the whiteboard or edit it as well. And I should be able to send that. I'm not sure. Oh, I think probably this is only going to accept an stccd.edu email. Yeah. I can share that. I can make this person editor, a commenter, or a viewer. And once I make that change, oh, has disabled collaboration with users outside your organization. So I really can't do that right now. I'm not quite sure why they did that. That's something I'll have to find out about. But I can certainly use this as I'm using it right now by just bringing it up during a Zoom meeting and sharing my screen. It, again, becomes just a presentation tool and not a collaboration tool, but more often than not, that's what you need. And you might ask, why would you bother doing that? Well, if I do this, I have one extra tool here that I didn't have in my, actually I got a couple of extra tools that I didn't have when I started this whiteboard up from within a Zoom meeting. I have an image tool, which will allow me to import images, pictures of all sorts, diagrams that I have already created in a computer file somewhere. If I select that tool, it will allow me to search my hard drive for a particular image, open that up, loads the image. You see the image there. Now let's see, I can pull this over out of the way and move the whiteboard a little bit. And I could annotate this, I could lecture using this image on the basic anatomy here. I can, you're actually, another advantage of this is you're actually seeing how I'm doing this. I can use the shape tool, the line tool, give me an arrow here, and I can set that arrow to a nice purple color so it isn't hard to see. And I can draw an arrow here, and I can then go to my pen tool and again use my stylus. There it is. And that's the heart. Whoop. Not sure what I did there. I flubbed it. Let's get the eraser out, no problem. And get rid of that. And go back. Use the pen tool again. This time I'll try to be a little more careful. Not sure what I'm doing there. Huh. It's taking the tool away. So let's just drop back a little ways, get rid of all that junk. Whoops, went one too far. Let's bring that back. So now I can use my arrow tool. We're all still learning about this, and draw myself an arrow. And go back to my drawing tool. Whoop. What on earth? I'm not pressing down on my mouse button and it's still drawing, and I don't know why. So obviously this thing has got some demons in it. Okay. But the image tool is undoubtedly useful, but it's something you only have if you start, or if you create the whiteboard or access it either from the Zoom client, which is what I'm using right here, or from the Zoom website. I can access these whiteboards from zoom.us. Go to my account. I'm already logged in, so I didn't have to log in. And I've got a whiteboard tool here, and I can access the whiteboards from here just as well as from anywhere else. Here's the one I was just accessing. And again, I have that image tool from there. So I'm not quite sure why you don't get that when you start the whiteboard in meeting, as we started off doing, where people can collaborate. I've done some research and I can't find any explanation of that. Hopefully they will either fix that or let us know at least why the things seem to work that way. So the real advantage of these whiteboards built into Zoom is that they can be accessed from within your Zoom window, either by the share screen button or the whiteboards button in your Zoom host menus. And you don't have to pull up another application to use them. But if you're willing to do that, there's a maybe even better tool that we've just gotten access to. And that is the Microsoft Whiteboard. It's something very similar capability, actually has more capability than the Zoom whiteboards. You can bring it up, you can share it easily with your class, and everybody can collaborate on the whiteboard. Let's see how we can do that. It is accessed through something you're probably becoming familiar with, My Apps, your My Apps link on the Office 365 website that IT has put up to help you use that. Or there's an even simpler way to get to this My Apps tool or My Apps window. And you have all your different PowerPoint and Word and Excel and things like that, but you also have the Microsoft Whiteboard there. And it looks a lot like the Zoom whiteboard or like Jamboard, like most of these whiteboard software whiteboard apps look more or less alike and work more or less alike. Let's see how we can actually get to this Microsoft Whiteboard and use it in a Zoom meeting, which we're doing right now. I'm going to bring up a web browser here. And you can get to your Office 365 apps very quickly without having to navigate through websites and things like that by just going to a web browser. Anyone will do. And typing on the location line of the web browser, typing myapps.sdccd.edu. Yep, you're seeing that. And press enter. My Apps, let me put that in the, well, let's see that work first. That takes you to the My Apps page at, right to the My Apps page on the district website. You don't have to go looking for it. And there's a button at the bottom that says Go to My Apps. And if you're not logged into your Microsoft account, and this works equally well on a Windows PC or a Mac, if you're not logged into your Microsoft account, you'll be prompted to do so. Your login credentials will be your district email address for user ID, whatever at sdccd.edu. And your password will be your portal password or the password that you use to access your email at the district. That's all been put together in the same, with the same sign-on. So your district email address for user ID and your normal email password for access, and you'll see this My Apps page. And these are all the different Office 365 apps that you now have free access to by virtue of the district providing them, or the state chancellor's office is providing, I think. And one of those apps is the Microsoft Whiteboard. It's down here in the bottom row. Hard to miss. You just click on that app, the Microsoft Whiteboard starts. And this is kind of like the Zoom Whiteboard in that you'll see a series of saved, well, you see a button that allows you to create a new whiteboard, and you'll see whiteboards that you've previously used. Let's just create a new one. So we start with a blank sheet here. Just click there. And here's your Microsoft Whiteboard interface. Again, it's pretty similar. You've got some tools over here on the left and a big white space that you can fill with drawings and writings and all sorts of stuff. Initially, you may just see this little bar here. And you have a pointer, which you'll need from time to time when you're moving stuff around on the whiteboard and so on. You'll have a pen tool, which gives you this somewhat more interesting looking option to allows you to pick a pen color or a highlighter or a laser pointer or an eraser. Ruler doesn't seem to be too useful. Or a lasso allows you to grab stuff and move it around. Then you also have this plus sign here, which is labeled Create, if you mouse over it, and you can create sticky notes. You got a text tool, just like you had in the other two whiteboards, shapes. You got some emojis in this case as well, images, templates, which will help you if you're looking to create a whiteboard for a particular use. You may find a whiteboard template that will give you a leg up on getting started. Or documents, something you didn't have in the Zoom Whiteboard. You can actually pull up documents and display a limited type of documents, but display them on the whiteboard. There are pages of them. So you can pull a page, for instance, from a PDF document and put it up on the whiteboard and annotate it and talk about it, share it with your students and so on. We'll see how to do all that here in a moment. Of course, you want to be, and this whiteboard has capability to be shared with your students as well. It won't automatically be shared, at least in a participatory nature, with your students in a Zoom meeting. You have to provide the students with a bit of information in order for them to be able to access and actually edit this whiteboard if you want them to be able to. That is done under the share button up here in the upper right. It's a little standard share symbol with a square and an arrow curling out of it. But if you mouse over it, it says share. And you click that, and you have some control over who and how you're sharing this with. You can your only options here, you can't share this with just anyone. You can only share it with people in your organization. The good news about that is, as of now, even though they may not know it, your students are all on the SDCCD Office 365 group. They all have full access to Office 365. IT is informing them in groups. So many of them don't know that yet, but you can share this whiteboard, in fact, with any of your students right now, if you wanted to, because they all have access to Office 365 right now. And you can choose whether to allow them to edit or not. The default is to allow them to write on the whiteboard or draw on the whiteboard or whatever. Though you can turn that off. And you just apply these settings. So you can indeed provide access to individual students if you want to, but usually the best option is to just give everyone you want to access the whiteboard a link and let them access it that way. So I'm going to apply those settings. So it says here, people in your organization with the link can edit this whiteboard. And you have a copy button down here that allows you to copy the link to this whiteboard to your clipboard. So you select that. There it is. It's copied to your clipboard. Now I can send that to my students in a variety of ways. I can put it in an email. I can put it in a Canvas announcement. I can, if I'm in a Zoom meeting and I'm doing this live with them, I can just put it in the chat tool. Which I'm doing for you right now. So that link just popped up in your Zoom window. You can just click on that and you'll have access, edit access to this Microsoft Whiteboard. And you can do things like draw on it. You can hit the create button and you can add sticky notes. Just click on the color of the sticky note you want. Click on the whiteboard. You can move this around just by clicking and dragging. You can type in it just by double clicking. You're brainstorming, for instance. You can change the size of it, which also changes the size of the type. You can change the color of it. You can color code them. You can delete it if you don't need it anymore. You can copy it so that you can paste it again. Oh, apparently you have to do something to prepare for that. I'm not going to worry about that right now. You can provide alt text, because this you can use, as with the Zoom new whiteboard, the new Zoom whiteboard, you can use this asynchronously. You can share this whiteboard with your students and they can annotate it asynchronously. That is, they don't have to be online at the same time you are. And they can have access to it at any time at their own convenience. And you can do things like bring images to the front or to the back. If something's overlaying something else and you want it to show through from below, you can change where it's stacked in the layers and so on. Or you can annotate and or draw, or edit text, I should say. And again, always change the size of it. You can rotate sticky notes if there's any particular reason to, and so on. So you can add sticky note after sticky note to your board as people brainstorm in a concept session or whatever. You can again type text. You can draw shapes. I have a pretty good number of shapes here. Arrows, dotted lines, parallelograms, squares, circles and ellipses, pentagrams, things like, or pentagons, things like that. Not quite as extensive a set of shapes as you have in the new Zoom whiteboard, but probably more than enough for anything you'll ever need to do. You can add emojis wherever you like.
And you can change the size.
Yes.
That's fun.
Found something you like. That's good. You can load images. Here's a trick I like. I'm going to load images from my computer. And I have somewhere on here. They set an image of basic Cartesian axes, basic graph. And I can draw now. Let's go to drawing, go to my pen tool. I just use the black tool, black pencil. And I'll get over here to my graphics tablet. And I can, let's say I want to graph the equation, algebraic equation, y equals x squared. Equation of a parabola, I seem to remember. Let's see if that's true. I can draw a data table here. Okay, thank God for the eraser. Let's see if I can get that a little straighter this time. All right. I draw just about as well as I type, which is to say, not well.
Where's your line image?
Well, that's, that would be better, wouldn't it? I'm trying to do it. I'm trying hard to do it freehand, but it's not working real well. Let's get the eraser out again. Just shows you how you can recover here. I can go to my shapes. And get my line. And I can draw a vertical line here. That's an excellent suggestion. And then that's, and maybe a horizontal one here. Right underneath. That's going to be a little easier to do. If I had a steadier hand, I wouldn't have to do this. But now I can go back to drawing. My pen tool. And I also have capability here to make the line thicker or thinner, or change the color and so on. But this will do. So X is the independent variable here, if I remember correctly. So let's say we'll start with minus, what can I get to here? Minus 4. No. Minus 1. I start at minus 1, or better yet, minus 2. Change my mind, I can just erase it. Go back to my drawing tool, my pen. We can go from, let's say if X is minus 2 and Y is X squared, what's Y? If I remember correctly, 4. 2 times 2. Minus 2 times minus 2 is plus 4. All right, minus 1. X squared, Y then would be 1. If X is 0, Y is 0. Anything 0 squared is just 0. Don't have any good way to draw better numbers other than just practice. And then if x is plus 1, well, y is still 1. And if x is plus 2, y is 4. Okay, so admittedly, this is a very simple example, but you could do live things like this, combining live drawing with images that you've stolen, not to put too fine a point on it, from somewhere. And so now I can plot these points. Go to minus 2x and y is 4. So there's one of them. Draw a circle around that. If x is minus 1, the y is 1. So there's minus 1, 1. 0, 0, right here. And then if x is plus 1, y is 1, plus 1. And if x is 2, y is 4. And now I have a parabola. That is the equation of a parabola. And I can draw that in. Again, I just have to be steady of hand, but just an illustration of how you can use images along with drawing and things like that. So it's that image tool is a very nice thing to have. You have that in the new Zoom Whiteboard, and in the Microsoft Whiteboard, you don't have that in the in-meeting whiteboards for the new Zoom Whiteboard or in the classic Zoom Whiteboard. So you always have this with a Microsoft Whiteboard. You don't necessarily have it with the Zoom Whiteboard. Certainly not if you're in a live meeting. So this is another advantage that the Microsoft Whiteboard has. And it's pretty much as easy to use with Zoom as the built-in Zoom Whiteboard is. And the more I use this Microsoft Whiteboard, the better I like it, the more superior I think it is. Let's see, images, templates. You can choose like a brainstorming template, which will give you a bunch of sticky notes all at the same time. You don't have to create them one at a time. And then you just fill them in as people brainstorm and so on. Play with that. And something you don't have with the Zoom whiteboards at all, you can import documents here. I think they're still working on this. When you click on the documents thing, it takes you to your OneDrive. And you can access all the files that you have stored in your Microsoft OneDrive, which is likely to become your preferred place for storing documents in the cloud, particularly if you are constrained to use the web versions of the Microsoft Office app, which can readily save documents only to OneDrive and not to your local computer. But let's see here, what do I have? I can share PowerPoint presentations or PDFs, I think, are the only two types of files that you can put on your whiteboard right now. Here's a PDF. I can select that. Click select. Takes it a second to pull it up. A little shading moving across there to, there we go, to let you know it's doing something. It's not just staring at you. This is a multi-page PDF. I can select any of these pages, like this one, or I can select multiples, and I can insert them into the whiteboard. Get that out of the way. I can make these bigger or smaller. I can move them about. I can draw over them, annotate them. This is a capability that I've never seen on a whiteboard before because, of course, the PowerPoint files and the PDFs are Microsoft type file, or the PowerPoints are anyway. I think they're supposed to be making it possible for you to embed Word documents and Excel spreadsheets as well, or at least pages from them. But I don't believe that's working just yet. I couldn't get it to work anyway. So pretty cool capability. And again, I can move these things around if I select my movement tool. And this whiteboard is you can just click somewhere where there's no object on the whiteboard and move your canvas around. And it can be as big as you like. And you can zoom in and out to see more of the canvas, and back in to see more detail and so on. So you can really kind of work on a single page for most of the time. And again, if you have shared this with your students by sending them that link or providing that link to them in one manner or another, they can come in here and they can edit the whiteboard at the same time you are. Or at times when you're not editing the whiteboard, they can go in and they can contribute to it. So you can use this kind of like a wiki or a Padlet or something like that, where people can add content to it on their own time, or view it on their own time. But it's especially useful as a real-time whiteboard, virtual whiteboard in a live Zoom meeting. And it's working just fine because you're seeing it just fine. I'm not actually sharing my Zoom screen. I'm doing this through a technique called OBS, but I could just as easily share that whiteboard screen with you. Now you're seeing just the whiteboard without me, which is no loss. And but there it is, that's live. And I can draw on it and so on. And other people who might have clicked on that link can go in and access it and edit it. Since when I shared it, I specifically indicated that anybody with the link in our organization can edit this, either while I'm in it or on their own time. So you got just all sorts of options here on how to use this as a whiteboard equivalent in a live or an asynchronous situation, a synchronous or a synchronous situation. So these are the two best, I think currently the two best software whiteboards available to you for free that I know are going to stay free. I'll mention just very quickly, since I've already mentioned it once, Jamboard, which, like the Microsoft Whiteboard, can be brought up in the middle of a Zoom meeting. It's jamboard.google.com to access it. If you have a Google account, you have access to Jamboard. And if you use Gmail or YouTube, you already have a Google, or Google Docs, you already have a Google account, or you can get one for free. And you can create Jamboards. Here's a cool one that Kathy James used. She shared with me. I don't think she'd mind me sharing that. I don't see Kathy here today, but there's a bunch of, this is some sort of evaluation session on a speech given in class. And you have the same tools here. Let me go back and pick up one I can piddle with and not mess with hers. You have annotation or drawing tools and erasers and sticky notes. And which you can move around and so on, just like the others, very similar capability. We've got an image tool, a shape tool with a smaller number of shapes, but still pretty good. You got a text tool and even a laser pointer. This is kind of a unique one to, well, actually, no, the Microsoft Whiteboard has this too, but you can, you know, point out stuff on the screen that you're talking about. And the trails there will fade out, just stay there long enough for to draw people's eye and so on. So Jamboard is a good software whiteboard equivalent too. And it's, at least for now, it is completely free for considerable use. I've got quite a few Jamboards in there and they haven't asked me for money yet. So as far as I know, this is going to stay free for a time, but you never know with Google. They have been known to just discontinue a product or start charging for it without a lot of warning. So that's why I didn't make this one of my primary part of my primary presentation, but it's a useful tool as well. So there are four, actually, if you count the 2 Zoom whiteboards, 4 good options that are free to you, at least for now, for software-based whiteboards. And all of them are collaborative. Okay. But there's one more way to replace your physical whiteboard with a virtual whiteboard equivalent in a live Zoom session. And that's a document camera of a type that's designed to plug directly into your computer. Other than through a USB port. There are a variety of these available. Some of them are a lot better than others. I am certainly more comfortable with the IPEVO document cameras. Let's see what how Amazon is feeling about that today. IPEVO is the name of the company. Here's their entry-level one, which is the one I have sitting over here. You had a picture of. Let's see. Wrong way, sorry. Don't know my left from the right there. Zoom out a little bit. There's one I'm using that I've been using on and off here today. It is a relatively inexpensive device, $100. These got very popular during the early days of the pandemic and were almost unobtainable. And when you could get them, they cost as much as $200 or $300, but the list price is $99. And finally, Amazon's down to charging that list price for them. They're exceptionally useful tools for as whiteboard replacements for virtual class meetings like this. All you have to do to use it is plug it into your computer, and Zoom will find it as a video source. You'll, if I share my Zoom screen with you for a second. Now you're seeing my Zoom screen. If you go to your video icon in the lower left here, click on the up caret that gives you the video menus in Zoom, it will be visible here as an option. And you can just click on that option and have that video sent out rather than your regular webcam. If you have the IPVO camera plugged in, Zoom finds it automatically. There's no complex setup process or extra software load or anything like that. It works like a shot. I am doing this a different way. I'm using an intermediary program called OBS that's allowing me to select between different video options. So I don't want, if I click on this, I'm going to trash my session right now. So I'm going to get out of that and just show you the output from that document camera. I need something under there so you can see it, something like a piece of paper, something it can focus on. There's a little button on the camera that will focus it automatically. And that's a piece of paper. Instead of having to use mice or expensive moderately to extremely expensive graphics tablets or styli on a touch screen or something like that, I can just write on a piece of paper with the most high-tech element of this is a Sharpie and a piece of paper. And I can flip from page to page in my whiteboard just by physically turning the page. And if I want to draw something that I really can't share with students in real time in any other way, except, again, using a graphics tablet or some other, or a stylus, I can just flip to a new page, go take the Sharpie here, and let's say I want to show someone how to convert benzene, C6H6, to nitrobenzene. Can't even draw with a pen anymore. I'll plead hand surgery on that, but it's basically like all of us, I use a keyboard all the time. I never write with a pen anymore. I can barely sign my name. But I can do this. Students in about the middle of the first semester of organic chemistry learn very quickly that to do something like this, you just take a mixture of nitric acid and sulfuric acid, and it's so much easier to write with a pen on a piece of paper than it is to write, even using a graphics tablet, to write on a software whiteboard, because it's a natural skill. It's something we've learned to do from the age of 3 or 4, because we've got that learned hand-eye coordination where you're looking at the page and you're looking at the tip of the pen and you're writing, and it's so much easier than any of these other techniques we've talked about before. This device that allows me to do this in a Zoom meeting is a little bit expensive, but $100 will more than pay for itself, because you're not just limited to whiteboarding like this. You can put a document down and share that just as you can with any document camera. My favorite birthday card there. A little Montana or Idaho humor there. We do occasionally get grizzly bears where I live. And or you can put 3-dimensional objects there if you want to show someone a like this. Here's a type of microphone that you can use for a Zoom meeting. You can just put that microphone or that 3-dimensional object right down there and show that. So it's just got all sorts of utility in a live Zoom meeting. It's a lot. There's no learning curve to this. You plug it into your computer, you select it as your video source in Zoom, and you're rocking and rolling. And you're writing on a piece of paper. You can zoom in and out mainly by moving the camera up and down. It's on a little articulated stand, which you can find the PTZ. Yeah, you can move it up and down that way. If you need a wider area, you can just set it up on top of something like a high-tech cardboard box. Not you just get a bigger box and set it up higher, and you can cover a wider area. Zoom will sell you an articulated device that will allow you to extend the vertical adjustability of this camera, but a variety of cardboard boxes work just as well and cost a lot less. But this thing really does make virtual whiteboarding about as easy as it can get. The one major drawback is that it is not collaborative. You're just presenting as you would be on your whiteboard in the classroom, and you don't have the option of sending a student to the board virtually, as you do with the software whiteboards. But I've found that that's something I do relatively little. The vast majority of the time I'm presenting, I'm broadcasting. So this works just it's just as effective and a whole lot easier as a virtual whiteboard. I'm limited only by the size of the piece of paper and how high up I push the whiteboard, and the image quality is excellent on this camera. That's why you got to be a little careful with buying USB document cameras. Some of the knockoffs that became available on Amazon during the early days of the pandemic were pretty low in quality, and it could get to the point where it's a little hard for people to see what you're writing or showing to them. And so on, the IPVO cameras are all high quality and all have high quality imaging and optics. There are more expensive versions of these things, more expensive models. Yep. Or less expensive. Oh, this is an AVER. AVER is a well-known manufacturer of document cameras. This one is probably fine. I haven't tried it myself. That's one company I wouldn't mind dealing with because I know that they produce decent stuff, but I don't imagine it's as either easy to use or as high a quality as the IPVO. Then the IPVOs get more complicated with different levels of connectivity and so on, but that's an old one. You don't want that. Here's one that's even a little, this is a more compact one. It's cheaper because it's on sale right now. Okio Labs is one of those knockoffs I would stay away from like the plague. Here, the IPVOs get quite expensive. You don't need those. And this is an old one. I don't know. You got to be careful. The Ziggy is the older model of the one that the first one here, the Amazon's Choice. So you wouldn't want that. This is the one you can get right now, and it's excellent, easy, plug and play, and definitely be the one I'd recommend if you were interested in acquiring a USB document camera for yourself. And this thing is small enough and light enough that if you're doing things like this in the classroom, you can also carry it into the classroom with you using your laptop in the classroom. You plug it into your laptop and you can and the document camera will work better and easier than the one that may be in the podium if there is one in the classroom. So great little unit. I get no kickback from them. I've used them for years. I'd like to tell you I found this, but somebody at Miramar one time bought this for an online lab that they had early on in the day. And I found out about it from them, and I've been using them ever since. They're very, very handy and very functional, and just a lot simpler to implement than the software whiteboards. And that's it. That's the end of the presentation. Haven't heard a lot of questions today. So now's your chance to get some in. I'll stay here and answer questions as long as you have them. Let me kill that screen share. Can't really tell that, but there you go. And ask if you have any questions about anything I've covered here. Let's talk about virtual whiteboarding first. And then if we exhaust those questions, I'll be happy to answer questions on any topic that you might have. Just unmute yourself and speak up. Don't stand on ceremony.
I've been using Jamboard for different types of configurations of the sticky notes.
Right.
I hadn't ever thought to use it for drawing at all. I thought it was just for the sticky notes.
No, it's a full featured virtual whiteboard, and it has, as you saw, has just about all the features that any of these have, with the possible exception of that feature on the Microsoft whiteboard where you could share a page from a PDF or a PowerPoint presentation. But that's not something you're going to do every day. So Jamboard's an excellent choice. That's why I felt like I had to mention it. It looked like we had time to do that. So it's an excellent tool, and it's as good as any of these virtual whiteboards. So go in and start yourself up a new Jamboard and play with it a little bit and see all those different things you can do.
Well, I also use Padlet, and you'd mentioned that there was the other software that can be used the same way as Padlet, and I'm does it have?
Let's see. What I was referring to, and I didn't really illustrate that, but I can show you using my document camera. I have just as a sample here, I have an iPad here. Put that under and get that shared with you. I'm selecting my document camera as my source here. And no, I don't care what Siri thinks there. And there is a whiteboard app, a Microsoft Whiteboard app for the, dial down that light a little bit there, you'll be able to see it better. There's a Microsoft Whiteboard app for the iPad. There's also a Jamboard app for the iPad. So if you're using Jamboard, you do that. But if I go into the Microsoft Whiteboard app has those whiteboards we were playing with today. There's the one we were fiddling with. I think I can just tap on that. Yeah, hopefully it will load this. It had some trouble loading those existing whiteboards. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I'll go back. I'll just make a new whiteboard. That seemed to work. That's some misconfiguration I have or something like that. It's nothing to do with the system, I don't think. And I can take this, let's see, focus that again. Come on. Focus. More like it. There we go. I could share this whiteboard with you through my apps, but doesn't seem to want to focus. Whoa! Just about dropped it. That's not good. just to show you what I was talking about with a stylus. Okay, focus that again. Okay, here's the stylus I was talking about. And I can just write on the whiteboard. Oh, come on, turn on. Trying to get my stylus to turn itself on, sorry. This one's a little cranky sometimes. That's probably what I get for spending $25 instead of $200.
I was just wondering, does it come, I mean, I use Padlet because I can take the embed code and put it into Canvas.
Padlet, yes. Yes, indeed, you can.
Can we do that with this?
This one does not have, I don't think you could do that with this one. I haven't seen any evidence of an embed code. That's a really good question. Padlet is a great little tool for sharing information of all sorts, and I love it. And it's,
is the school buying it by any chance?
I'm sorry?
Is the school going to buy it for us by any chance?
Not that I know, but you can use it quite a bit without having to pay for it. It's free up to a point, up to a certain number of Padlets and so on. You'd have to keep cycling them in and out, but yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard of any movement on that that might cause that to happen. That's something that you could suggest to your department head or your dean that you're interested in. They can pass it on to the district technology committee, and it's possible that something like that could be arranged at some point in the future. I don't know what the likelihood of that is, but I do know there are a lot of people at the district who do use Padlet fairly extensively, mostly the free version, and they just archive their Padlets that they're not actively using and then create new ones, and you get 8 or 10, something like that, for free. But what we talked about the different styli and so on that you can use with touchscreen devices. I don't know why my Apple Pencil equivalent is not coming on here, so I'll just use the more generic one. And I can do things like select my pen tool, and I can write directly on my iPad screen.
That's nice.
So I can use my iPad or my Android tablet or my cell phone. If I have a large enough smartphone, I can do this from a smartphone too. This type of stylus will work on any touchscreen device, or you can write on if you have a touchscreen monitor on your computer, you can write directly onto the whiteboard there. Or if you have a Microsoft Surface or a SmartBook or something like that that has touchscreen capability, you can use something like this to write right on it. And you can utilize, so you can present using your mobile device and use it as a virtual whiteboard. And you can share it in a Zoom meeting by, if you use the Microsoft Whiteboard, you can just bring the Microsoft Whiteboard app up and give everybody the link to the whiteboard, and they can pull it up on their screen, and you can lecture from the whiteboard while they're listening to you. And you have all the same capabilities and so on that you would have if you're using this whiteboard from a computer, in it with the addition that you can draw directly on it using the stylus or this Apple Pencil. Oh, there, that woke up. So I can, this works a lot better. And I can draw pictures and very naturally, because this thing is feels very and operates very much like a pen, like a marker pen. And there's just turned itself off again. This one's always been there. And you can do come on.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's so much easier.
It's really good. Yeah, that's easier.
So if you've got an iPad, the Apple Pencil and equivalents will only work on an iPad. It won't work on an Android tablet or any smartphone. It won't work on an iPhone either. This has to be an iPad. But I've just got a little, you can get refurbished iPads now for $100 to $250 that will work fine. And they're even easier in many ways than the document camera.
I've got an iPad and iPencil. I'm going to use those.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have to run to my next meeting.
I understand. Take care. Thanks for coming. Okay, so good. I'm glad we got that in the recording. That was something I wanted to spend a minute on. Okay. And that the information on acquiring that stylus and so on is in the slide deck, which I gave you a link to earlier, but let me put that up there again.
Well, it's just you and me, and I have to leave too, because I have to get back to school tonight.
Oh, so it is. So it is. Okay. Well,
thank you,
anyway,
Dave.
Everybody should have that link.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.